absolutely no idea what actually caused the problem other than it went away.
Yeah, neat.
Yeah.
Technical tap or threat therein.
So next time the camera just starts like crazily going into burst fire mode, just, stop using it for a while and then hope that it's better later.
That was, the audio that of just hearing that was just absolutely bizarre. I like the chat.
Yes. Hello. Good morning, FBI. It's good
from my former colleagues, maybe.
Yeah. They're always welcome here. Gosh. Good morning. Hello, Internet. How was everyone's weekend? You get into anything fun, Russ?
Oh, yeah. So I'm still restoring the teletype, the World War II era teletype machine.
Nice.
Full table, full kit.
Wow.
It's about 380 pounds worth of stuff.
Oh my gosh.
I haven't killed myself with that yet. So yeah, almost done with that. Bit banged more on what we're going to be talking about today. And then, oh yeah, you'll probably enjoy this little bit of randomness. So on the roof of my garage, I obviously have a lot of antennas, one of which is pointed at Go 16. So I constantly download updates from that. And I just recently added a new fixture to the roof.
What is it pointed at? It says
Go 16, the satellite.
Okay.
The weather satellite.
Go 16. Is that a NOAA? I'm sorry.
GOES.
Is that a NOAA satellite?
It's one of the GOES clusters that are geostationary.
So it doesn't move in the sky.
It doesn't move. Yeah, you just point right at it.
Antenna. Nice.
Yeah. So and you don't have to deal with like, hey, time intervals, signal strengths, anything like that. And you can just use.
It does move, but it just moves in relationship to us moving.
Yes, so it's geostationary to us. So you just point a dish at it, and hot snot it and lock it down, and you're good to go.
Nice. And I'm sure there's like a calculator online to figure out based on where you are in the world where to point up.
Dish Pointer. The website Dish Pointer.
Nice.
So you punch in your Latin Longe and it gives you what you need to do. Well, I've had this thing running for quite some time now. It's been pretty rock solid. Like no matter what hailstorms decide to blow through, it handles things fine. Well, anyways, I added a new thing called a skycam. Commercially, these products go for $1,200 to $1,800, sometimes $2,000 US. And I thought that was way too expensive, and I could build one for cheaper. So built one for about $400.
No way.
Yeah, and it creates some beautiful time lapses of the daytime and nighttime sky. But so it's a nice astro camera with a 180-degree walleye lens, and I have it on a Raspberry Pi 4, all inside the tube, with a PoE injector, and it's all weather sealed and it's all tightly packed. It was running fine, but then I noticed that the GOES dish, that my reception just floored. It wasn't working. I was like, great. Did I step on the LMR cable? Did I nudge it slightly? Like, what did I do? So I spent maybe 40 minutes one morning last week, just before it was getting way too sweaty. Replaced the cable, replaced the amplifier, tried to realign it, and it just I wasn't getting anywhere. I was like, did I fry my SDR? Did I what the hell happened here? So I noticed
that's the worst, when there's like nothing, like if there's like hum, if there's fuzz, if there's
water or like some that smell of fried electronics,
that magic smoke. It ain't going back.
Nothing. But I did notice that I briefly stood in between the dish and the new camera that I put up, and the signal improved. I was like, oh, do I have radio interference going on here? So sure enough, I being a radio nerd, I have like sticky tacky sheets of copper for RFI installation for boxes and things like that. So I just put a sheet across the external side of it. In the meantime, my neighbors are thinking I'm just even more weirder than normal. And then the signal improved. It went from, it had almost a order of magnitude improvement. I'm like, great, I have an RFI issue. And I started thinking, okay, maybe it's the Wi-Fi and the Bluetooth on the Raspberry Pi. So I RF kill those. Marginal improvement. Then I remembered it's USB 3, and USB 3 stomps all over 2.4 gigahertz.
That's right. Oh my gosh, dude. I cannot believe you how many times I've run into those troubles. And then, especially doing, tuning and things like that with 2.4 gigahertz devices. Sorry. For everybody else that has not been traumatized by, are we rocking the same mug? Sorry. Esoteric here. Yeah. You move to Austin, you got to get a Yeti, or I guess it's everywhere you go.
Yeah,
but
great mugs, functional and clean.
No, what I was saying is for everybody else on the stream, and also hello, welcome stream, that has not been traumatized by USB 3. Can you give us the lowdown on that? Oh, hey guys, wouldn't it be great if we just resonated at, I don't know, like arbitrarily 2.4 gigahertz? Nothing else is on that.
Exactly. So, I used to do a lot of work in the wireless village. I was the SDR challenge creator and all that stuff. I still help them and nudge them with various projects and seed ideas, and sprinkle a little chaos here and there when possible. But one of the things that started cropping up was when people were trying to do Wi-Fi based challenges with Raspberry Pis, 3s and current, and they were noticing that they weren't capturing all the packets with Kismet that they normally would in other circumstances. And you just spark up an SDR, drop it right next to it, and then you end up noticing that, hey, when the Pi is turned on and the RF interfaces are off, 2.4 gigahertz is being slammed whenever USB 3 is in use. It just screams into the heavens. It's absolutely noisy as all get out. So like, oh, so that's an interesting situation, because whenever you start using the device, the more you use the device, it just radiates all over 2.4 gigahertz. So subcontext, the
Draghorn, by the way, who's in chat here, also notes that it's not just 2.4. USB 3 just likes to scream everywhere, I guess. I did not know that. People having problems with GPS even. Gosh.
Yeah.
But we got to get that throughput. It's worth it, right?
Exactly. So at the for other context, GOES 16 receives or transmits, and you receive at 1.7 and a half to 1.79 gigahertz. Mm-hmm. And so you have a parabolic grid dish antenna right next to this light source. Then you also amplify it. Of course, it's going to not work. So I've foiled up the whole one side of it, grounded it, and I'm back in business. So not only am I getting really awesome pictures of the sky, the weather satellite receiver is fully functional again. I'm just now waiting for a few more things to show up in the mail to make it more permanent and weatherproof.
So dropping it to USB 2 wasn't an option.
Nope. The camera is a high-speed camera. It constantly needs USB. It's constantly pulling images. And doing exposure activation.
Gotcha. That's how I got around it in my situation, was just thankfully I was able to still get what I needed by just, throwing in a USB 2 hub and make the problem go away. But man, that is.
Oh, and Draghorn is also.
I feel like you actually skipped a few of the steps in your troubleshooting sequence, because you made it seem just so smooth. And
well, there was some cursing, a lot of sweating, and weight loss being on the roof. No, but I do want to point out that Draghorn is also absolutely accurate about the USB 3 right angle adapters being a part of the source of the noisemaker. When I was building this thing, I used a right angle USB 3 adapter, and so it's a show. No, the debug process was a lot of time, spending a lot more time trying to realign and get the signal back. and not thinking about RFI. And once I started going down the path of RFI, the one extra thing I did is like, all right, let's just turn off the whole camera. Full signal came back. I go, all right, great. And then I started doing the micro steps of like turn off Wi-Fi, turn off Bluetooth. Why isn't this? Is it actually off? All right, let's just stick on a whole bunch of copper.
Nice. Well, hey, thanks for the tip as well on this sky pointer. I had no idea. This is pretty cool. So you can just throw in whatever you're trying to shoot for and wherever you are. As I attempt not to dox myself.
But yeah, if you were to type in, San Francisco,
sure,
or something along those lines, some eloquent address that you may recall there, or was it 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, or is it 1800 Pennsylvania Avenue?
1600.
Oh yeah, a couple blocks down is the FBI office, which is why I always.
There we go. So if we wanted to
it's
point at ChinaSat 16, then we would.
If you look a little in the gray box area. Yeah, the gray box area just a little bit below is. Just below the map.
Oh, just below the map. I see. Yes.
Yeah, like that's the stuff that you copy pasta to your phone and blow up in big print while you're holding a compass and a.
That's pretty cool. Oh my gosh.
Level sensor.
I love the augmented reality kind of stellar apps. I had no idea that there were ones for satellites. I was recently in the Eastern Sierras with Glitch, and we were doing some van camping, and it was just like the perfect spot kind of near Mono Lake outside of Yosemite. And you could see every star in the sky. And we're just like sitting there in the woods, and it was like the perfect silhouette too, because you had like, all the twinkly stars. And we're just like, around a campfire looking up. And every now and then you just see like, shooting star. Nope. That's not, it's like constant velocity. And it would just like, arc over the night sky in this like perfect line and then just kind of wither away. And it was like right after sunset too. So we realized like after we saw like a bunch of them going literally the same way, at I don't know if it was perfect intervals or anything. We're like, oh man, we're like catching glimpses of satellites here reflecting, the sun. Is pretty cool.
I've got a video for you that I'm trying to pull up right now. And I will also try to not dox myself in the same process.
Or just you can either share your screen or you can just go ahead and send it to me in PM. And,
I'll share my screen in a moment. But yeah, it's I was going to show the video of this thing after I got it really well calibrated. Let's see here.
Also, what's up? It's so good to see everybody here. Just having a great time. Agent 45, Mayhem, Marion, Dragorn. Is that really Jason Scott? Hey, Jason Scott, dude, got to get you on. It's good to see you. The FBI is here. Thanks for showing up as always. Appreciate the toning it down on the breathing on the other end. Nah, that'd be the Chinese.
Ni hao. Alrighty, so I think I got.
Oh, sweet!
Share
I
screen.
see it now. All right.
So I started calibrating the sensitivity of it at this point, but you can start seeing these little tiny dots. Very, very faintly. Those aren't stars. The bright ones are stars.
They are or are not stars?
The bright ones are stars. The small little tiny dots are not.
Is there like a map where you can like filter? Because all the stars are known. Well, no.
Yes.
Okay, sorry. That was a stupid statement. A lot of stars are known.
Yeah, it's there absolutely is a way to filter it. So yeah, here's a better, slightly better one. But yeah, it's
pretty cool. You can see the air traffic, or more potentially shooting stars. So and the tracking. So is that tracking or is that fixed?
It's fixed.
Okay.
I think this was like the last clear night that we had before it started getting very stormy.
Wow.
And that's the moon. That's not
amazing.
the sun. That giant ball of nighttime hate is the moon.
And is this just the exposure shifting causing that flickering? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I still have some calibration to do, but yeah.
That's cool. So all sky.
All Sky is the name of the open source project that manages it for you.
Got it. As opposed to Skycam.
Yeah, Skycam is the host name, but this is the current snapshot for outside. Clouds are rolling in. You can see the the grid dish.
I was about to say, do you have a photo of this rig?
Yeah.
I say as I realize that that is not this Skycam. This seems to be the first Skycam on Google, and is also what are we looking at here?
Let's see here.
Oh yeah. Well, either their PHP is out of date, or there's a problem on line 11 of raw_navigation.php buried in NFS. /mount/domain/skycam TV HTML. Of course, WP- something. Gosh, I love WordPress.
Let me copy link. Yeah, I did a tweet about this, and I'll drop that to you so you can share it out.
Nice.
So that's the 3 pictures of the troubleshooting of it. Was like the goes signal being really high, and then you can start seeing me futz with and go aha, and then it's back to normal. But I got the picture of all 3. Well, actually, all 4 things on the roof.
Nice. Oh, dude, that looks great. Wow. Is that the camera?
Yeah, the black stick is the camera.
So cool. Dude, you've got the
and that's the foil.
that like all the kids on their Huffies going by are like, that guy's a fed.
Yeah, that's the stuff the neighbors see. They don't see the other stuff.
Dude, that's awesome.
But yeah, that was that's the quick catch up of the random bits of projects on top of keeping the kids safe. The only other major drama over the last week was the house trying to make a surprise indoor pool of the basement.
I mean, maybe he's just trying to tell you something.
Yeah, like
you had something this room in your life, and oh, is that the basement?
Yeah, I'm in the basement right now. Yeah, the ceiling tiles I just replaced over on Friday. Like I had a nice indoor water feature that was just right here about this time last week, and then I got that one fixed. It was the drain hose from the dishwasher on both ends went at the same time, and then the air condenser
smelled wonderful too.
Oh yeah. And then the air conditioning condenser pump started bioengineering livers. It's the only way I could describe the volume of red slime mold that was in it, but it overflowed. And
so everything decided to go at once because they're like, oh wait, hang on, the dishwasher gets to go, I'm going too.
Exactly. So all that sort of random bits of fun. But
I mean, that's the joys of home ownership, is it not?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I guess this would be a good pivot for what you wanted to talk about.
Yeah, please. In fact, as you grab that, I'm going to grab mine. I'm very excited. 1 sec.
Sure. I just had the other one a moment. Oh, it's over on my workbench. Hold on.
I have all of these cases around, and
I could just stream from the workbench, but that would be a little bit weird right now.
I keep all of my bits and bobs of all of my Hak5 gear and all of the Hak5 cases, and I'm actually working on. I'm excited for this. Give you a sneak peek. Finally, something that can carry them all.
Oh, nice.
That's in the works. and I'm like, where are my doodads? And it's never ending. There's too many doodads.
It's a lot of thingers.
Yes,
So
but I've got my mod, courtesy of our very own Draghorn, in my case with my coconut, and this makes me so happy. Where's the USB-C? Where's the USB-C is it's very
not
2019.
USB 3 after all.
Yeah. So where's USB-C is a very 2019 statement. I find that in this day and age, I actually have a harder time finding a micro USB. Or I'm like, where'd all my micros go? I used to put them in a drawer and then they would multiply like bunnies. And now, like for the 2 things that I have that charge over it.
Well, you fed them after midnight and then they turned into USB-Cs.
Yeah. Yeah, which is also how you solve the pro tip. If you've got an EOS M6 camera and it goes into crazy burst shutter mode with a blank screen instead of acting as a USB 3 webcam, the solution is quite simple. Unplug, put it in a box, wait a few hours, plug it back in. Voila. Because that's not frustrating as all get out. I mean, you know, what if you know, you're getting no signal, and then you just checked again and suddenly it's there? Is that
exactly?
Like, it's as bad as like my code compiles and I don't know why.
This is abnormal. This should never happen. Yeah, it's there every once in a while. There's a life experience of, you know, you did enough planning and then you actioned the plan. It could be a major network change, system architecture overhaul, and all the stuff, and it just works. And you're like, no,
this worked on the first try. I cleared my entire schedule to spend the entire weekend troubleshooting.
Yeah, it's like, what? Where's the smoke?
Yeah, and then you're like, so I guess the job is done, and I'm going to kick.
But it's like that anticipation of fear. You're like just waiting for everything to just like topple over.
Yeah, and everybody's like, "Hey, it sounds like you're done with work. We are all going to go to the lake. You want to join us?" And you're like, "Yes."
Yeah, I'm
as
not
long
sure.
as they have service, I'm going to bring my laptop anyway.
So Grandpappy Draghorn, he made a really cool add-on to the Mark. Oh, are you still there? Am I it?
I'm just giving you center stage because you know, you can
the hell out of
me.
You
know, yours is actually mine's pretty much info because I just need to find a cable here to light this bad boy up. But yes, he did indeed build something quite nifty. Go on.
Yeah. So he made a shield for it that has some neopixels underneath it that are addressable and accessible via the UART interface. And that was such a cool hack of leveraging that interface to do things, to interact with additional hardware on the device, that he and I were chatting back and forth and thinking about, like, well, what else could we add to it? Things that would be one part learning to be able to, you know, add things to the architecture, but also things that conceptually would free up the USB port that's on it for other things. So going down that path, the end goal was, well, why not just make a shield that has a GPS on it? So the first iteration of that hodgepodge,
nice,
was this sucker.
Oh my gosh. Let's get it.
So this is the debug board for that. And all it is it just slides right on top of that UART interface. There's an Atmel 841 microcontroller that's providing a serial input-output for not just the GPS, but also kind of like a conversational bridge between the UART interface and the GPS, so that you can tell it to be like turn on the GPS, start filtering GPS messages to a particular endpoint and things like that.
What's the GPS module, and do you just interface it with it over like serial simple AT Haze commands, or what's
pretty much? But there's a message in front of it. Well, so the interface is the module itself is by a company called Sierra Wireless, and it's a first round iteration of testing this out. And when you buy GPSs, So this one has the US GPS system and GLONASS software built into it.
Oh, nice.
So it can read, it can receive both, receive and decode both signals.
Oh, I didn't realize. Is GLONASS on a? Sorry, for those not aware, that's the Russian version, essentially, of a global positioning system, and it speaks the same or similar enough frequencies that the same.
It's another band. It's another frequency,
band,
but it's got a decoder in it, so you could either do GPS or GLONASS. You can't do them both at the same time off the same chip, but you can switch back and forth. My desire for doing that was because of concerns about import-export control.
Oh, tell me about this, because I might know a thing.
Yeah. So my thought was, hey, if it has functionality in it that goes to countries where we may have concerns about export controls and GPS and nav stuff to it, maybe the chip would come with like less of a export barrier of like who can purchase it. No.
Yes.
So the short of it is no. And the more I got to understand this specific chip, the one that I got, the more I realized this is the wrong chip to use for a product. for these things, because they allow you to, they give you the source code to it.
Oh, nice.
So that you can reflash the firmware for it.
That's great for hackers.
Yeah, but also with the subcontext of military application.
Isn't there like a limit on how many times you can, like the sample rate for a GPS chip?
Yeah, so that's why apparently
the idea that you can't like make your own homemade cruise missile or something.
Yeah. All these things turned into the reasons why this thing still came with that warning. So I subsequently sourced another chip, respinning a board for that. But that was just like the overall journey associated with that. But the idea is that this would free up the USB port on the Mark 7, so you could put something else on it other than a hub with a GPS and other stuff. It just gives back a port. The baby step iteration between the GPS was doing another functional board, which this is a unpopulated one, but coin cell battery on one side, and then on the other side is the my finger was this spot is just essentially a RTC. So I can put this over on the camera that I have over there for better viewership, but essentially, why not just add a real-time clock to it? Those have no import-export control issues with them. They're significantly cheaper than a GPS module, and it solves the time concern around when you reboot the device, you lose time.
Yes. So, and also for anybody interested, why we're so concerned about, the import-export thing, if you go to hak5.org/compliance, you can see I don't want to say a labor of love, but a labor of thousands of dollars and hundreds of hours over many years, making sure that we have things in line for FAR 52-204-24, which you don't have to think anything about until, we get asked to provide our documentation that proves that we don't do business with Huawei, basically.
Yep.
Or ZTE and all of our country of
origin,
or
the North Koreans, or
yes. Oh my gosh, there's like so many dots and that you have to, so many I's that you have to dot and T's that you have to cross to do this kinds of stuff. And it's the reason why literally we just go straight up only dealing with BIS recognized ENC favorable treatment countries. Meaning if you're one of these lucky countries, then you have been deemed by Uncle Sam as a cool bro, and we don't have to worry about stuff. Which is like
that's a good summary of it.
Basically, France, Germany, Greece, Hungary, Iceland, Ireland, Italy, Japan, Latvia. Hey, Latvia, cool bros, cool bros,
cool bros. Latvia. Yeah. So I didn't want to have to deal with that.
Yes.
And like subcontextually, I was thinking of going as far as like, all right, it's the whole board is populated minus the GPS module. Here's the one. If you can get it, go forth and get it.
Nice. Yes, as a kit, as it were, and then
Yes,
problem
it's just
solved.
missing the one part that costs $15.
Hey, I love it. And actually, I mean, it really does. There's actually a couple of like huge benefits from that. Not even on the, actually, there wouldn't be one on really the export thing, because we've like gone to such extremes on that case to not even just be like, hey, don't sell to these ITAR guys. It's like, no. We're not going to go deny list. We're going to go allow list. We're just going to like be like the goodest good Boy Scouts you can possibly be. But it also provides like the kit experience of getting to solder it together and learn that experience, flashing the firmware, or I guess that there's probably firmware stock on the board.
So yeah, there's already stock firmware on this particular module, but it also comes with instructions on, hey, you want to do something janky with GPS? Here's how you jank with GPS on the Sierra wireless module.
That's pretty cool. And then that way you can experiment at home and, have a lot of fun and not get in trouble and just, be an all around also good Boy Scout, as we all should be. And Girl Scouts too,
Exactly.
Yeah. Scouts, just in general. And also, props to my Thin Mint friends as well. Definitely.
Absolutely.
For the cookies.
So the RTC board.
So a real-time clock. So I guess
that was my baby step.
Remember when, building PCs back in the day, and there would be, that watch battery and that buzzer, and you would have to like set the time in the BIOS, and if things got really foobarred, you would have to not only just like, pull the plug, but you would actually like reset your BIOS by literally pulling this watch cell battery on the motherboard.
Yep.
And all it was doing, in addition to maintaining time, was like keeping all of that stuff in otherwise volatile memory. So for anyone that's not familiar, real-time clocks are everywhere and super important, because otherwise computers forget things, not just like their memory, if it's not in non-volatile disk, but also what time it is, which is a lot more. Actually, you know what? This would have been solved with the GPS module, funnily enough, would it not?
Yep. Absolutely. So to show off the prototype board, the one that works, this was the first iteration of it. Disclaimer, don't get drunk in KiCad, kids. You will screw things up, as evidenced by that one red wire there.
Nice. Gotta love a fly wire.
Yeah. So, and then also on the back, I apparently forgot to put the ground pins on. KICA,
of course. Yeah.
But it works, and it functionally works very similarly to the construct of the GPS module. There's a Atmel 841 on it that acts as a bridge between whatever you have as a device and the host box itself. So over the weekend, I was going the Draghorn route of having a custom app that would be on it that would do the interactions and things like that. And I'd between setting time, or like, here's a package that you install, and then it'll just remember time and do all this other stuff. And my aha moment was, wait a minute, all I'm doing is just echoing out to dev console two commands. One is to either set the time of the clock, and the other one is to get the time of the clock, and the clock just barks back a date -- set string over the console. Why don't I just edit the NTP startup script that's on it, so that if NTP sync happens, set the time of the real-time clock. If it doesn't happen, just pull it off the RTC and set the time.
Nice. I mean, that's what we rely on is, and well, actually, interestingly enough, with the Mark 7, we introduced not just pulling time from NTP or the network time protocol. So every time you get on the internet, your computer can say like, yo, dog, what time is it? And asks a couple of happy servers on the internet, and they say like, this is the time we've all agreed upon. And therefore, this completely abstract construct works for everybody. Or two, with the Mark 7, will now sync browser time, which is just like because yay, HTML has come a long way since 3.0.
Yeah, we could do things with web browsers that should never be doable.
Right. So you've got this super simple, cheap and tiny microcontroller, basically just sitting between the Mark 7's sock and your real-time clock.
Yep,
and so
which
it's
is a
not
very
keeping
standard
time.
RTC. Yeah. Let's see here. I have. Yeah, I got my KiCad open.
Ooh, let's see.
Yeah, hold on. Let's. Actually, I had the KiCad for something else open. I have way too many KiCads open. Let's see here. That's the GPS one. That's the real-time clock one. Okay. Let's do share screen, window, eSchema. I think it's this one. Wait, no, that says GPS on it. Why does it say GPS on it? All right, let's try that one. Okay, this is the right one. Okie dokie. So this is as simple as the schematic gets.
There's not much to that.
No.
Here, I'm gonna unpin the chat for a second so we can like get a closer look here. This looks really cool.
So there are two separate sheets. There's one for a power regulator that's on it for when flashing the microcontroller. The microcontroller will take 3 volts and 5 volts. I just don't want 5 volts magically dropping down through the UART rail.
Yes.
So but
you're pulling the 3.3 volts off of the UART that's on the Mark 7.
Yes, but in the event someone decides to flash this when it's plugged in, I don't want 5 volts magically dropping in.
Hey, thanks, man. Thanks for making sure that nobody accidentally, bricks their pineapple because they just shoved 5 volts down a 3.3 volt TTL.
Yeah, so that's all this does. That's what that's the thing that protects that. So
but you don't have to flash it while it's connected to the pineapple.
Correct.
You could flash it completely independently.
Correct. So
that right there is a design decision made by somebody who knows users.
Who's done this themselves.
Yes. There's a reason that you can recover most all of your Hak5 gear through a fancy, pretty web interface rather than a TFTP server and telnet and a jumper cable.
Right. And so this is essentially the interface for the microcontroller that's on it. It's just a standard ATINY 841 SSU MCU, and here's the serial input and output that goes directly to the UART interface, and everything outside of that is just Arduino code. No big whoop on that part.
So you just created a sketch like you would for an Arduino, and then all it does is just ferry serial back and forth to the pineapple?
Yeah, that's how the sausage is made.
Nice. I mean, hey, if it works, right? That's the solution.
Yeah, it's let's see here.
I love the simplicity of it because it's like, in fact, we'll come back to the Arduino thing in a bit, but I love building on that because it's a known quantity and it works.
Yeah.
So what does the what is the real-time clock? I actually haven't seen this RTC chip that you're using. What does it speak?
It is SPI.
Okay. This is definitely something that to TBH kind of keen to as we iterate hardware might be taking a few cues from this, because this is clearly something that has a lot of benefit, because if your pineapple always knows what time it is, then your PCAPs will be a lot easier to comb through.
To manage, exactly. Yes. Let's see here. Let's do new window. Let me go to, here's the DigiKey, pulling up the spec sheet from DigiKey.
Oh, for the oh, not for the sock.
Let me stop that. And let me pick up here is the spec sheet.
Mm.
Sorry, it's I2C, not SPI. Sorry, it's
There we go.
I2C.
We got spec sheet on spec sheet action now. There we go. That's right.
Yep.
That's why y'all tuned in. I mean, hey.
Yeah, exactly. And for those that were quasi paying attention to the schematic, it's essentially this.
Oh my gosh, I love when they give you a reference design. Essentially,
yeah.
Here how implement.
Exactly. The only thing I didn't do is the push button reset piece because I didn't need that functionality.
So essentially, you just have two things. You can speak to it and say, "Here's the time," and then you can listen to it and here's the time.
Yeah. So there's two commands that you send to it. It's one. So the command sequence is echo quote, and then what you want to send, end quote, greater than /dev/console. And then what it's doing is it's looking at the UART interface for a specific message header that comes off of it, and then it just parses whatever the sequence of data that comes out of it, and goes, someone wants to talk to me. All right, what are the two messages are, one is C:R, so clock:"read," and if it sees that string and a /n at the end of it for a new line character turn, then it goes, all right, this wasn't some random debug message or something else that came at me. It was some, it's going to assume that a clock read request was made. So then the microcontroller asks the DS 3231, what time is it, yo? And it receives it back, and then it takes that message and converts it into a system command, which is date -- set, and then the format of the month, date, time, so on and so forth.
But so that's a script running on the Pineapple itself?
No, it's running inside the microcontroller.
Oh.
Think of it in the sense of I rubber duckied the
you rubber duckied the Pineapple. I love it. Oh my gosh.
So
because it has direct access. I mean,
yes.
You get physical access, all bets are off. We actually do password protect the serial console, but that notwithstanding, again, all bets are off.
Yep. So
also, Russ, your video froze. Just kicking your webcam. There we go. Still frozen.
It's moving for me.
Interesting. Maybe it's time for a hard refresh of the old browser, and maybe if you guys in chat can. It's working on your side. Okay. Hey, it's just me, and that's fine by me. All right. Gosh, that makes things a little difficult on the presenting side, but okay.
That's a little weird. So yeah, it's essentially the MCU is just a shim in between the two things. And let's see here, that's what it looks like, quite literally. And it's if you buy one of them, it's $10.
Sure.
And then price quantities change accordingly from there. The price has gone up because obvious reasons.
Oh my gosh! No, I can't have the conversation. It's just too heartbreaking. As I stare longingly at my coconut, is not a euphemism for anything.
Yeah,
other than tears. Well, dang, I gotta ask Russ. That is a sweet little chip there. And I love that it just speaks SPI. I guess maybe I'm as I'm saying this out loud, I'm answering my own question. Why not interface directly with?
Just keep one on the board.
Pineapple, but I guess the reason is because it speaks SPI, and you need to speak to it over the only interface that you have currently, which is the serial line on the Mark 7. Yeah.
That's what it's doing right now. Is there an SPI bus?
There is. You would have to tap into, like, I forget what the sock is, if it's like BGA or what. It's not going to be fun. It's not going to be pretty.
Oh yeah, no, I'm
And
looking at this now.
not going to be user serviceable. The MediaTek.
Yes.
Oh gosh, I forget the sock now. I forget what's actually in the pineapple. Oh gosh, but anyway.
Really effing small. That's the way that that's what I'm looking at right now.
Yeah.
Like,
so technically, you could, if you really wanted to get fancy.
I don't hate myself that much.
Yeah. So here's the crazy thing, and this is where, we had this foresight years ago with the Mark V. We were like, oh, wouldn't it be cool if people could, interface with SPI and just have random GPIO and serial and all of this stuff. And so we put these headers on the Wi-Fi Pineapple Mark V, and then we threw together a hardware development kit that you could literally, snap on top of the plastic case. The case had a door that would just pop off and expose this, like, it wasn't a 40-pin connector. It was, I forget what it was. Maybe it was like 10 or 15, 10 or 14 pins. But yeah, and then we provided, the Eagle files and the schematic for interfacing with this, and it had an 18 mega 328 that you could program as literally, an Arduino. You could write some sketches and throw it on here. And here's how to actually get started and make some stuff. And got literally,
crickets.
Crickets. Yeah. And
well,
then I'm like, well,
timing.
I guess people aren't interested in making hardware for the Pineapple, so that's okay. People like making, at the time they were called infusions or modules. So here we are, and then got to hand it to Dragorn, who's like, ooh, could make pretty. And then dude, Russ, I'm so stoked that you're like, ooh,
and this is totally a standing on the shoulders of giants moment. Like, if it wasn't for Mike, I don't think we would have an interest in doing this again.
Right. Truth. And also standing on shoulders of giants, like this HDK we did was practically an Arduino, and we stand on giants every day, building on top of Linux. So, thank you to everybody that commits upstream everywhere else. Yes.
And so, having even just the UART exposed the way it is, there are fun and exciting hacks for other devices that can just, if you can talk serial and just put like a header syntax on it to only allow it to pick up what it is being talked to, it opens up a very straightforward and simplistic world associated with build your own shield. But yeah, Dragorn's absolutely right. The timing nowadays is a whole lot is more gooder than it was.
Definitely more gooder than that time. It was kind of infancy
because of tools.
Yeah, in fact, I think it's actually a sign of the time in that, looking at the old wiki and the Wi-Fi Pineapple HDK for the Mark V, and the schematics and everything else, like all the files are in Eagle CAD, not in KiCad. So it was, a different time.
And the other big thing to point out that he's done is the casework for them, making like the tactical case. 3D printing has gotten really accessible nowadays, and just the whole maker effect associated around DIY hardware and things along those lines is just in 10 years it was a significant change in accessibility and utility and functionality and a whole bunch of abilities.
They've gotten so refined that you can actually get like a 3D printer, an inexpensive one from Monoprice or something like that, and it actually just work and not like be there goes your entire weekend, futzing and troubleshooting, trying to get, plastic to melt.
Yeah, and there's also services that you could just model and send it to, and they'll print it for you and take care of it that way. There's new services and markets that didn't exist, which is why I think there's a really good time to play with all this sort of stuff again. But yeah, it's other things that I've been noodling on is so of course Kismet runs on this, right? And there are a few SDR related sensors that could potentially be augmented for doing very basic if it does OOC or FSK, like very simple stuff. A separate shield could be dedicated to just doing very low level like decoders for car key fobs, TPMS, or the RTL 433 data set of stuff.
Yeah.
So
it's an amazing chipset.
Exactly. And the thought that I have is going into that particular direction with just a very basic decoder for a handful of very specific things like that, thus freeing up the USB port for something else. But there is one question I do have for anyone that may know this on the stream. And I can't find the word that matches what I'm looking for, but on the Raspberry Pis, when they make hats for them, there's the header that allows you to push through versus being a socket. So it makes it more pancakey and sandwichy. You typically see them with like the PoE shields or some of the other ones versus like a pin header that's like a thing like that where it's just a socket. The pins push all the way through off. Yeah. What are those called? What is that particular connector type called? So essentially it would be a hole in the board, and then the socket pins go off to the side surface mount. I can't remember. I see them.
I will.
I don't know what they're called.
I will ask around as well, because it's these kinds of developments and conversations that really like influence the next designs, and these designs take easily a year and a half, 2 years to make, and to from where you have like the idea to when you actually have like hardware in hand, sometimes much longer when you're in the middle of a global pandemic and chip shortage.
Right.
So knock on wood. But
in short, I would like to take this knobby bit that's the header there and be able to make it flatter. And because the whole board would set straight down on top of it, and then it would sit inside the case.
Now, yes. As opposed to, you could just do through hole and then just say like solder it.
Yeah, but it doesn't come off easily, and then add on other ones. In short, no pun intended for electronics. One of the things that could possibly be done is you can make stackable boards by extending the headers off of that.
Oh. Well, I mean, wait, what? Okay, so this, I'm sorry. Part of me like loves the hodgepodge. Part of me is just like, we should have just kept with that damn HDK port for, the 6th gen and the Mark 7, even if nobody was developing it before. Because now I'm just like, this is so cool, and yet this is such a hodgepodge. Because you're talking about stacking. Can you literally, if they're all speaking the same baud rate, just share a serial line amongst many, and just like what? Just hope they don't talk over each other?
Yeah, but that's why you have message headers saying like, hey, this board, it's the clock, it's C:, and then the command for the clock. This was the GPS, so like G:, and then the normal GPS syntax bolted on the end.
Where this gets ridiculous too is when you've got like enough add-on boards all sharing the same serial line to the Pineapple, and then they all have to like orchestrate the timings of when they can speak. So then you implement like a clear request to send and a clear to send, and you basically recreate Wi-Fi over serial.
Yeah, I didn't say it was a good idea. But I mean, the other more realistic thing that I would probably do is just swap out the MCU to a better one. And then, as Mike just said, just have it be all in I2C on the back end. So like you have just the one chip that talks everything for you, and then you just break out an I2C bus on the back end. Maybe that's probably a good board to make, is
that like a generic, like, hey, everything talk to, in that way everybody can share one single microcontroller and then it just gets flashed with whatever the accessory firmware is to speak to everything else over I2C.
You know what? This will probably be the better board to make, is recreating that first one that y'all did that just bridges the
HDK.
serial. Yeah, just rebridges everything out, but pumps it over serial versus.
TBH, there's nothing super extremely special about the original Mark V HDK. It just exposed serial, a couple of GPIO and the SPI on the sock. It's a shame because we're not, I don't believe, using the SPI on the sock, or one of them that we could just, yank. So that's a shame. But at the end of the day, there's something beautiful about the simplicity of just speaking to the device over serial that I could totally see this being a thing.
Yeah,
it's just a shame that it wasn't with like that foresight in mind from the get-go, because we would have made altercations to the at least the plastic, at the very least to the plastic. Now we do always put those headers on the board, so if you open up any Wi-Fi Pineapple going back years now, you're going to find 4 pins just randomly sticking up on a header, and we put those headers there so that if you really brick it, we're talking like really brick it, you can always you can get something.
Yeah, but as Dragorn said, like that we could easily just spend a brand new board that essentially is going to be a serial bridge to I2C or
this feels very
SPI.
This feels very retconny, but man, I could even alter the plastics for the current gen Mark 7 to expose the serial in a less janky way, or a case replacement or whatever have you. But still, regardless, I'm over it. I just love the creativity, and I'm so stoked that you've done this.
Thank you.
Do you have this up online anywhere? Where is this on a GitHub or?
It's on. I have a GitHub for it. The where I'm at with this whole thing is tonight I'm going to translate the last fixes to the schematic, order a brand new set of boards from Osh Park, solder one up. I'm going to send one to Dragorn for him to cross-check and verify. No pressure, Mike. And once that's all done, so far the whole thing costs like maybe $15.
That's amazing.
Like bare minimum parts. So free and open source it. Like anyone else want to make one, here's your bill of materials, or for some extra scratch, we'll build one for you, or here's the kit. And I don't know how to best approach that for folks for accessibility.
Well, I mean, talk to Mike, talk to Dragorn, because we've forged a way with Hak5 to offer those to people that just want to support the project. For a lot of people, they're like, hey, I don't have a 3D printer, or I don't have the time to sit there and solder, even if you make it as simple as through hole. But and for them to be able to support makers that are doing good work, I love to facilitate that kind of stuff, and that's what we've done with the with the Kismet case mod. So
that's also a hell of an awesome case mod.
Yeah, it's also gorgeous. Yeah, and also so is the have you seen the 3D printed one that Dragorn did recently?
Yes, yeah, that's what I was talking about.
The molly straps.
Yeah,
like
the tactical case.
I say that as I'm like developing the next behemoth case for all the goodies, and I'm like, we're definitely gonna need some molly straps.
Guacamole.
Yeah, exactly.
No, it's the my personal website is handorf.org, and underneath it at the top is a link that says projects and all the janky projects stuff that I'm working on. There's another one for code that references all my GitHub stuff. Yeah. So if you go to projects, it'll be in there.
Nice.
Once I've like everything that works, once it's done, I post it up there. So yeah. Wow, yeah, I totally forgot about the ShmooCon 2020 thing. I need to get back and do one other thing with that. So the ShmooCon 2020 was a demonstration of building a SDR receiver and integrating it directly into Kismet. Which this project is a same sort of mental shift conceptually on, of like building a shim
Yeah.
and bridging between two things. ShmooCon at 2020, I was just littering the place with PCBs for it, and they still works. I was cleaning up my office and I came across one of them over here, and then now of course it's gone again. But yeah, that's where all the deets will be posted, and I guarantee you it'll be updated by the end of this week. But yeah, it's I just got to get down to doing the the fixes of, oh yeah, I totally forgot to connect that ground bus, and getting that last board spun up. But yeah, the code is easy. It's very straightforward. It's Rust spaghetti code, so it's written in a way that like logically it reads well. I don't do anything that makes it like.
You're talking about the C that's on the microcontroller?
Yeah, I try to keep it simplistic in a way so that it's educationally accessible. I don't try to do like crazy stuff with pointers or like, why is there 2 double greater thans, or like bit shifting inside of things. Like, I want to show you the bit shift, and then I have another one that will actually be tighter and cleaner. But
we're in the middle of the same thing as we're like, working on a big update to Ducky script, and we're like, okay, but we got to keep it stupid simple, because that's the beauty of it, is that you can like just read it and know what it's doing, and not, are you of the opinion that good code doesn't need to be commented if it's named properly?
So I have 2 opinions on it. You can do really cool creative artwork code as long as it's documented, because you know what's going on inside your head.
Yeah,
no one else really does. Yeah. Oh, come on now. Just regex.
Okay.
No, it's
excuse me while I weep into my HTXS.
But there's another style of coding where the code is the comments itself, because it is so broken down and so simplistic, and the variable names and the function names are so self-descriptive that the comment about it would be literally defining an integer called counter.
Exactly.
So that when I did a lot of teaching in college, I had those 2 styles. I had here's the artwork thinking way of where it's like, we took this giant mess over here and collapsed it down to like 5 or 20 lines, and then the giant mess is maybe 150 lines, but it's like each step is broken out in very simplistic conceptual Lego blocks, in order to then go from that and extrapolate it to refinement of a process. So but this thing was so lightweight that breaking it out is the benefit of someone else being able to pick it up and see it. At a beginner level programming construct, it was just I was like, I don't need to make this complicated for the sake of that.
I love that on a as like a hardware hello world level as well, because there's something beautiful about the simplicity of like the hardware, the real-time clock being just that simple, of like you speak to it with this and say, here's what time it is, and then you speak to it with that to find out what time it is. Like, there's nothing it's not more complicated than it needs to be. And then in the same way, it's just it's basically the more complex stuff is just more of that, right?
Yeah.
So for anybody just getting into it, and wants to build one of these and kind of learn how that kind of stuff works, and gets introduced to the concepts of like speaking over the serial and the SPI to do those kinds of things, and then flashing a chip in between. Do you have like programming headers on it for like ISP, or how are you?
There's an ISP header. That's not my camera doesn't autofocus, because that's great.
Sure.
There we go. So this is the GPS board, but yeah, programming headers on there, and I've also set them up to be. But here's the actual clock board. Nice. So programming headers up there.
And then what is that, a CR2030?
Yes. Nice. Big old 3.3
battery,
or 3.2. Yeah. Battery that still requires mail handling disclaimers. And then you can see the bodge solder fix of I forgot to sync all the ground pins together.
You can ground anything. It's fine.
Yeah,
It'll be fine.
It'll be good. It's fine. It's fine.
Yeah.
But
Why is
yeah,
my serial kernel not working? Just ground it to the USB header. It'll be fine.
Yeah. So like on it says on the schematic, the example schematic, there's one pin for ground. And I was like, oh yeah, and also in the KiCad references, one pin to ground. I was like, yeah, just tie that to ground. But then there's all these other pins that are floaters that also say on the schematic NC, and I just wasn't thinking about it. So I didn't connect them until I was like, why isn't this working? And I looked at it, I was like, oh. And I looked at my KiCad and I went, oh. So just glued it up with a wad of solder, and that took care of it.
I can show you so many samples. They're not on my desk right now because I just cleaned it, but I can show you so many samples that are literally the same thing. 3D print the plastics, but man, when you open the thing, it's flywire heaven.
Yeah, exactly.
Hardware is hard.
Yeah, it's a triggering case for TSA inspectors.
Yeah, basically.
But yeah, it's
dude, that's awesome. Tell me about the and then on the Wi-Fi Pineapple side, real quick, just for it to interface with the microcontroller on the add-on board, it's just a Bash script.
It's a slight modification for the startup script for NTP.
Oh,
that's it.
Nice. It's like the NTP equivalent of like a hot plug script, where when it kicks off, it knows like, oh hey, I've got time. And you just like throw a little something extra in there?
Yeah, all it does is, did I get NTP sync? Yes or no? If I did, then update the RTC clock with the current time. If I didn't, after a certain time period, go ahead and just set the system clock with whatever I got off of the RTC.
Oh my gosh, that's brilliant.
It's just dumb.
I'm wondering if there's a way that we could check somehow to see if this board exists on boot.
Yes.
And then literally just like throw this in the firmware so that if you have the board, it'll just magically work, with the new firmware. And if you don't, it will just check and then just be like, okay, just do the normal thing.
Yeah. So I thought about having like a hello, I'm here sort of ping, like you could send the serial command to the board and it would respond back, affirmative or something like that. Or I said, you know what? Just go ahead and just send the command. If it's there, it's there, and it'll set the command. If it's not, it won't.
Yeah,
because there's nothing there.
Oh my gosh! Well, there's so many ways to slice that, but I just love that the simplicity of it. There's something to be said about both the like do it for you, build it and bake it into the firmware, or they let the user experience the joy of modifying system files and seeing them do the thing. Yeah. Either way, awesome kit. I love that it introduces so many core concepts without being any more complicated than it needs to be. And you look at the intersection of value to effort of a real-time clock when you going from not having one and relying on an internet connection to suddenly having one and being able to know that no matter where you fire it up, your PCAPs are going to have times.
They're not going to get stomped on. And
exactly.
Yeah. It subsequently solves problems that you don't really realize you always have.
Totally. Huge value considering what the BOM is. I would love to, see this offered as a kit, as like a learning experience. I would love to when you've got samples not including firewires too. Just throw in some IEEE 1348.
I might as well just go ahead and throw a USB 3 on it with really long traces.
Oh yeah, definitely. Anything that resonates at 2.4 gigahertz would be great.
Yeah, and Foxtrot, I definitely should be sending you one once I get the next iteration of them done for troubleshooting and dev work.
This would be the most fun kit, and then we could do get Foxtrot in here, and we could do let's solder it together and build it and throw it on, and everybody, you could follow it home and make one. Too much fun.
And the last thing about the parts that are on it, the smallest part is 0603 SMDs.
Oh, that's pretty big.
It doesn't have to be. The prototype one, I did PTH stuff because I have a whole bunch of PTH resistors and caps that I needed to use anyways. So it's just a pad replacement. No big whoop, but yeah, it's from a solderability perspective, it's not difficult.
Yeah, no, that doesn't sound bad at all.
Yeah, it's not like when I went full blown dyslexic on the last board that I spun and read it backwards instead of forwards and used pads for 0203s. I just wasn't thinking.
Well, you just make sure you get your soldering done before your coffee, and you're good to go.
or something.
Or something.
Yeah, no.
Take an Ambien. You'll be fine. No, sorry, that was not
exactly
medical advice to the makers there.
Yeah. I think Travis once advised me, take a shot of whiskey, take a shot of espresso, and then everything should be fine. Whiskey to steady the hands, espresso to drive the focus.
Yeah, I love it.
Not medical advice.
No, nor are the old banners for OpenWRT. And
exactly.
And my sympathies to anybody that actually tried to have an attitude adjustment or a chaos trauma.
Yeah, but yeah, it's there was another project board that is currently on the way from Osh is it's a badge, like a con badge idea, but scaling the PCB to being slightly bigger so you could actually hold an actual ID like for work inside of it. But I call it the lanyard. It's an Ethernet cable tester. And it comes with 3 feet of Ethernet cable that goes around your neck.
The LAN yard, it being 3 feet.
Yes.
Super cute.
Yeah, I get a twofer out of it.
Oh my!
Two puns.
No, dude. Why? Actually, thank you. I get so much hell for like the dad jokes, and I'm not even the dad in the room that I know of. Knock on wood.
Exactly. Yeah, but you picked it up. You got the dad joke blood.
Yeah, I'm just practicing.
Yeah, warming up. But it's
killer at this. Sign me up. I'll take 2.
Yeah, exactly. So like doing ShmooCon labs with Ethan and all that stuff. Like one of the big things that always runs around is like, where's an Ethernet cable tester? Well, it's a very simple circuit. It's a 555 timer that just clicks, and it drives a counter that turns on 1 pin at a time with each click. And then it loops back for pin 4. It gets up to pin 9, and then hit pin 9 happens. It resets the counter, and so what you then have on the outputs of that are just resistor LED, and then you just loop it all the way up and through. So you click, plug it in, and you nice. Now know if you have shorts, missing pins, or anything like that.
Because Ethernet hasn't changed in our lifetime, and there you go. So you can tell if the cable is bad.
Yes. And
we all know
what you cheap device.
When you find a bad cable, Ethernet, USB, or otherwise, you
put it back in the box.
You put it back in friend's toolkit.
Exactly. Yes. You put it back in there, and
scissors.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. No, there was a on the subtopic of evil things to do to people. There was a discussion of a competition to run when it's safe to have like big events again, and one of them is it was an event that's a scheduled event at DEF CON, but one of the sub challenges is you have to make an exact 6-foot length Ethernet cable that patches from this point on this rack to this point at this rack. Whomever does it fastest wins the competition. But if there's like a time sort of thing, then it gets to actually measuring whoever is closest to 6 feet exactly is there. And the way that the competition starts is that there's a tool bag with the cables and the headers and all that stuff in the tool bag, and it goes through like one of those things that just spins it to just jumble it all up.
Yeah.
But also in the tool bag is a 5'6" cable.
Oh, nice.
So if you happen to find it, you're like, this is it. And it's not going to work. Time distraction.
Got it.
Yeah.
Yeah. That sounds devious. And also, what is the length of a cable? Because does the length of a cable dictated by the beginning or the end of the
on the inside of the boot?
Yeah, on the inside, not the outside. So it's not the total cable length, because if you've got an Ethernet boot at the end of it, then you got another inch at least.
Exactly. So it's measured from the inside 6 foot because bendy.
Yeah, and I say that because I've watched MG weep as his clandestine cable is not exactly identical to, I'll just say, the real thing, because measurements.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes.
And the other context being is when you're having to crimp it, how much are you going to cut off the end in order to get to that exact 6 foot inside piece?
Oh yeah, that's true, because on those RJ45s, you really got to have it perfect on when they go into the plastic sheath on the onset.
It's a bit of an evil competition.
It is a terribly evil competition, and I love the measuring aspect of it. That's wonderful.
There was also a sub idea of cable goo for like running Ethernet cable and long conduits. There's like a goo that you can just having like a loose canister of that in the bag as well. So as it's just like rotating around, it's like slimy.
Oh yeah.
Texture.
Yeah. No, I'm sorry. You just had like a repressed memory of like 1990s phone freaking, outside of on the side of the road next to a pedestal in the middle of the night with a 3/8 inch socket wrench, ripping twisted pair out of a box and realizing that, ew.
Yeah, it's the Ghostbusters 2. Why am I dripping with goo? But yeah, no. Hey, you just grab this bag out of the back of the utility truck, and you have to make an Ethernet cable. You have no idea what's in the bag,
right?
It's the lineman jumbotron. I don't know.
And it turns out a lot of those were insulated with paper, because there was just so much goo in there that it was fine. They could get away with like cheap paper insulation on the twisted copper.
Yep.
I don't recommend, guys. It's not worth it. It's not worth the free phone call. It's not worth the free long distance. Don't do it. Also, come to me later. I'll explain to you what long distance was. Oh man, Russ, it has been an absolute pleasure geeking out, seeing the prototype build. I know you've been working on this for some time. I know that it's building on the shoulders of giants. I know that the community is excited to see more hardware hacks for this platform that we didn't expect to become. I love the idea of retconning a bunch of stuff into it with like a I don't know, like a general controller board. And also it's seeding a lot of ideas for the inevitable.
Yeah, it's
Mark 9.
Next,
we'll skip 8.
You'll skip 8. Yeah, it's like Windows releases.
Yeah, I don't want to be associated with whatever 8 was. Yeah.
that just didn't happen.
Oh no, they skipped 9. That's what it was. And then Firefox also skipped one that was pretty good. Which was it? I don't remember now. In chat, you get a cookie if you remember which version Firefox skipped, because they were just so badass. In fact, I think it was in the same vein as Netscape, which also skipped a version number.
Oh, why'd you do that?
Sorry, I know. Gosh. And yet Hak5.org is still best viewed in Netscape 3.01. Netscape, the Navigator.
Yes.
Yeah. Gosh, what was it? Was it 6? I don't remember. But anyway, there is a long-standing tradition within the hacker realm to skip a version.
Yeah. So. Well, it's also like the whole thing of the joke about 3 pigs were released on an aircraft carrier numbered 1, 2, and 4.
Yes. I love that.
What happened to 3? I don't know.
Yeah. Well, we sometimes get asked, like, what happened to 6? You went, this is the Mark 7. My last one was the Mark 5, and then I had a Nano. Where's the 6? And I'm like, well, we had to call it the Nano because if we kept on with Roman numerals, then it would have been the VI. And
that you're going to start a war with that.
And I'm sorry,
I'm on the right side of VI.
We're Emacs guys here. We're Emacs.
Nobody's perfect.
I'm kidding. I still write Nano. But the crew is slowly moving me to Vim, and now it messes me up because I'll be in Nano and I'll I'll type :Q in the middle of my
in the line. Like, well, why did it type :Q?
My muscle memory has been completely broken. Actually, funnily enough, Corbin, aka Dallas, who wrote the firmware for the key crock. I don't know if you've played with this one. It's inline. Oh my gosh, so much fun that you can do, not just as like a passive keylogger, but because it can intercept keys, and then based on any like matching, regular expression, it can inject whatever you want. And he's working on a couple of features for the next version of the firmware. One of them is, we have that ability to block keys from going to the host. But we will soon have the ability to not just block them from going to the host, but also block and intercept and then replace with, replacement keys. So he's literally building a payload that is a Vim key bindings like utility, so that in any editor or whatever have you, he can have those kinds of presets, which is
you just gave me an idea for
ridiculous.
a really terrible April Fool's Day joke.
Please, no. Trolling is like the #1 use case for that entire suite. Yes.
So for background, there was a guy I used to work with, and the story went that he and his wife snuck into his neighbor's hot tub, and for whatever reason the water turned green. So there was this joke about like, why is everything green? So for April Fool's Day, what we did, it was back when you had CRT monitors. We first set his Windows profile to make everything green, and then we took the CRT color setting and made it all the way green. And then I took a VGA cable
days where you could actually, like you get a loose pin and suddenly like everything's got a blue hue.
And then I took a VGA cable and ripped out some pins and soldered some other things to with a resistor and put that in line, so it was green.
Oh my God, I love this. I love this. You could make an inline dongle. I mean, VGA is long gone, but could you imagine the VGA dongle that would literally just be the greenifier?
Well, so it really pissed him off, and it was a good prank. But the pivot off of that is, why not have the key crock just randomly set your keyboard layout to Dvorak?
The Dvorakifier. Oh my God.
You go and you check your Windows settings and it's not there. Where is this coming from?
You're like, why is this? So if you're techie enough, you would like, everything is typing weird, and then you would open up Notepad or something and type in, you'd hit QWERTY and it would type DVOARK, and you'd be like, oh crap, I'm in Dvorak. And then you'd go rifling through the keyboard settings in your OS, only to find that everything is still set to QWERTY. And you're like, what's going on? And then you're like in your BIOS, like, did my BIOS do something and Windows doesn't know?
Yeah, Dragorn, that is a fantastic pivot.
Back in the truly dark ages of Mac OS 7, you could hook a trap. One of them was the keyboard handler. I made a system extension patch that would swap every 20th to 30th keystroke with the next one to it. Oh my gosh. So you go to hit H and you'd get J.
Every once in a while.
Oh, that's terrifying. That is terrifying. It's not even actually, TBH is not even just Mac OS 7 that's terrible in that regard. I recently discovered that even in the most modern OS, Mac OS, I think we're calling it now, not OS X. As I check about this Mac Big Sur. Anyway, even in 11.4, hit the caps lock key on your Mac and watch it not turn on because you didn't press it slow enough.
Yay.
Thanks, Apple.
Yay.
Anyway, it's not a computer. It's a Mac.
Think different.
Yes, dude, on that, I have got to run. I've got an 11:30, but man, it is awesome to see you. Anyway, let me know when you've got these. We'll put them together live and get Foxtrot to show us his elite soldering skills.
Absolutely. Doctor's orders.
Everybody, thank you for joining the stream. Dragorn, Jason Scott, Bugbot, everybody else. Great to see you guys. We'll see you again next Monday. Cheers.
Cheers, y'all.